OverDrive continues, TSN 1050, or it just begins, continues, begins. Sometimes it feels like it just goes around and around and around. Just one constant loop, right? We're always on in some way or another.
Exactly.
Continues, begins, off and running. Doesn't really matter, does it?
I think it does.
Does it?
I don't know. I mean, are you fired up or you're not? I mean, were you watching any of the draft at all?
Oh, what a wild night. Zero
black
trades.
Armbands, question mark, black armband for Fantilli.
Man, what a turn of events for Adam Fantilli.
Okay, I've got thoughts on that, but I want to hear your guys'.
My thoughts are this
Noodles,
guy probably had a place in SoCal.
Listen to Hayes. Yeah, listen to Hayes' reasoning for this.
This time yesterday, this guy.
What was he Googling?
This guy is Googling bachelor pads, surfboards, checking the Tinder scene in SoCal, possibly. I can't confirm or deny. Thinking, I'm about to set up shop in Southern California.
Right. Yeah, automatic second overall pick.
Instead, he's in Columbus, Ohio with Babs.
Yeah.
Mike Babcock is waiting for him in Columbus. That is a massive
I guarantee,
turn of events.
I would almost guarantee, I mean, I can't guarantee it, but I think he had a condo in Orange County, locked and loaded, and said, I want to sign the papers on Thursday morning. So let's agree in principle on a lease agreement, and I'll finalize Thursday morning just to be sure. And then he had to call the person back and say, I'm not moving to SoCal.
Actually, I'm looking for a place around Ohio State University.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
but do you know anyone in Ohio?
See, you're right. Like, I don't disagree with that. There's probably two disappointments: that he didn't go second overalls. So Anaheim looked at him and said, "We're not choosing you."
Right.
So that's number.
That hurts.
But I'm looking at that Anaheim organization. They're light years away from turning it around. So you're going to go down there. It's country club. It's laughs and lose 5, 6, 7, 2 every night. And Zegras is trying
I'll try it.
I'll try this. I'll try that. What's that called again? The Michigan.
The Michigan, yeah.
All of that. And it's, did you not say you believe that Columbus is a playoff team?
Noodles, let me clarify one thing.
Okay.
I am a deep believer in playoffs, heart and soul, like balls out hockey, physicality. But when we're talking about SoCal versus
Columbus,
Ohio,
no,
I'm going SoCal every time, and I will single-handedly try to change the culture down there in Orange County.
That's the way to look at it. That's a leader right there.
Change the culture.
You step in there if you're Adam Fantilli. You say, no more
guys,
Michigans.
No more trick shots. No more
around.
nonsense. We're here to win, and we're living in SoCal.
And we're going to start that tomorrow, but tonight we're having a massive party in Anaheim.
Down on the Strand.
We're going down to the beach, and we're getting after it tonight.
But the thing is I think he's going to be a better player in Columbus because I think it's going to take a long time. They went and hired Greg Cronin. You know Greg Cronin, the head coach there?
The Crony, I like him.
Cronin.
I like what he's
Gary
all
Cronin.
about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To me, they are in a reset, a retool. They're going on the cheap, all of that type of stuff. And eventually, yes, it is California, but eventually they are going to go, we'd like to win here at some point. They got a goalie that's on life support out there. That John Gibson, how many times did we talk about him this year going, the body language on that guy, at some point he's going to go, check, please, I'm out.
I think you're right in terms of the professional side of things.
Hockey side.
If he's got his head on his shoulders.
We're just talking about the idea of a guy waking up and thinking, and I kind of experienced a little bit something similar. I believe leading up to the draft, I was kind of rated number 1. So there's the Florida Panthers going. They take Eddie Joe. And then the Anaheim Ducks go, and they take Oleg Tverdovsky. I'm like, there goes 2 sunny climates. Number 3, Radek Bonk goes. I'm like, okay, Ottawa gone. 4, Edmonton gone. And then I go to Hartford. But I thought I was going like 1, 2 possibly. And then Florida, Anaheim, off the charts, gone.
Yeah, that's tough.
And it's just like you're sitting there thinking, I've been rated number 1 the whole year. and then you go 5. It's like, how'd they decide? Well, it's probably
Shane
Bobby
Wright. You were Shane Wright. I didn't
Bobby
know
Mack
that.
chirped me, and like, there's my family right in front of Gordie Howe. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Pretty cool stuff.
Very cool.
Why I have the short sleeve dress shirt on is an unknown to this day. That is just why? Was it like hot in there or something?
Were you manning the bar right after you got picked?
I love that. A short sleeve
manning
dress
the
shirt.
bar?
Wow, I gotta love that. There's a lot of respect.
Outstanding. The short sleeve dress.
Short sleeve, dude. No 19-year-old person wore a short sleeve dress shirt in 1994.
Wow.
You had to have a mustache and be 70 years old.
I mean,
Like, no one
honest to
does
God,
that.
looking back
and
at that.
you had to have a pen in the pocket.
Yes, you're Dwight
Yeah.
Schrute.
Or multiple pens in the pocket.
Right. And possibly a pack of darts and a bowling schedule in your future. Those are the lifestyle choices that come with a short sleeve dress shirt. But
Yeah,
you
that
pulled
was
it off.
right to Bolorama for a beer and a dart, and then just throw some 320s.
I love it though. Yeah, I can't argue. Anaheim to Columbus.
That's all I'm saying.
That's all. It might drop right there.
That's
but
all
it's
I'm
just-
saying.
I think in the end it might be beneficial for him as a player as far as development.
Sure.
Playing, he might have a chance where they might put him with Gaudreau and Laine and see how that unfolds.
Well, the thing is, you got Babcock too, though, right? Like Babcock will be about the process, and you got to do it right. And the first speech you'll say is, "There's men out there who have children they have to feed." And you're like,
their
"Oh
families.
God!"
I get
I
it.
could be in SoCal right now
He will
watching Ohtani.
He will suck the life right out of that kind of pizzazz of the young star coming in.
Right.
He will shoot it down immediately. You got to pay your dues. You're playing against players with mustaches and kids, and they're grown-ass men, and blah, 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 and he will suck the life right out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's learned that that's maybe not the thing to do, but with Babs, I doubt it.
Unless
I think
he's
Babs, once he starts getting into the environment, guys, he is going to be the exact same guy. Exactly the same, and I don't think anything's going to be different. As soon as he gets the suit jacket on and the cameras in front of him, it's going to be the exact same guy.
I think it might be
I don't have
here,
any
too.
doubt. What?
Here's the only recent reference I can use. Daryl Sutter comes back, wins Coach of the Year first year. Second year, doesn't go so well.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only. So I'm thinking Babs might be on his, we'll call it best behavior, kind of get endeared to everybody. Hey, we're going to dig in, all of that. They might have a year that surprises everybody. And then, like you say, at some point he might revert back, but I don't think it's going to be day one.
Would he be considered a redemption story?
No, because it's only one. For me, I always thought, and I'm in the minority of this, the Marner thing wasn't that big of a deal to me, personally. Coaches have been hard on players and that. I thought that particular situation, it's not the greatest, but that's not the worst story I've ever heard.
But it's not the worst situation that got exposed. That typically doesn't get exposed, right?
Right, but it wasn't the most egregious thing in the world.
No,
like my point is it was basically like he, punched Marner in the face or something. Like when he left this market, people couldn't wait to kick him in the ass on the way out. But when he was flying in on the private bird and people were tracking the bird, they got the greatest coach in the history of the world. So where did it, fall off from that? Somewhere in between?
Probably somewhere in between. And I agree that it's not a redemption story because I think he was just waiting out for the money.
Exactly.
Right? He was just waiting for the money to expire. And then once that was out, it was like, I'll jump right back in the pool.
Yeah.
This guy, he didn't have to go and coach in the KHL or something like that. The guy's just been sitting there collecting money. And now, a lot of it, and literally the day after the last check will cash,
he's like,
he's going to be in Columbus.
I'm good.
Yeah,
I got the greatest picture sent to me. Can you see what that is?
Who is that guy? Philbert or whatever? Or
Dilbert.
That was getting drafted fifth
the
overall.
The short sleeves.
Dilbert. From the Guelph Storm of the Ontario Hockey League. Dilbert's O'Neill.
Take it to the next level. You couldn't leave
don't blame me. You know who that is? That's your buddy Gurdeep sending me that.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, exactly.
That is disappointing to hear that.
Gurdeep calls him Obert.
Yeah.
Instead of Dilbert. I love it.
Obert. And what was it? What was that movie where guy was a lunatic in L.A. and he was walking around.
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
It's called Falling Down.
Yeah, there's a little Michael Douglas vibe in that. You walking up to see Jerry on the stage. Yeah, the short sleeve dress shirt.
Play the
man.
short sleeve wheeling up to the stage again. It's outrageous.
Now they forgot your camera, and it's just going to be a close up of Noodles.
Picture of my jibs.
The rest of the day.
V-neck.
Yeah,
there we go.
We need to see the short sleeve a lot. We need to see it a lot
It'll
today.
Be the best.
And my suit, like at that time, it was my buddy's dad, like just top of the line. But I don't know what happened when he said, "Do you want to fire up the short sleeve dress shirt underneath the suit?" Because everything else was like dialed in, and it was like that's what all the cool, like all the NHL players had. Mm-hmm. But when it came to the shirt, I don't know why the combo happened where it was like, you got to go short sleeve.
Yeah.
Maybe he said, "Are you going to sweat your ass off in that building?"
That's fair.
Possibly thinking you're going to wear a jersey around for a long time, too, right?
Whatever. I don't know what the process was, but I know Brad Brown, who got drafted also, I think, in the second round to Montreal, maybe the first. He sweat through his whole suit. Like, you know how you see pit stains or something on like a shirt? He went through the suit, and it was hot in there, man. I don't know, but it was a tough look.
I love
short sleeve.
Looking back at old stuff, because wasn't it Michael Jordan? He had they had shoulder pads. Remember the old suits? They had shoulder pads.
Yeah, there's some wild,
and
like
big,
you look
baggy
back.
pants and stuff. Like nowadays, guys are wearing really tight dress pants with like sneakers,
which will look ridiculous in 20 years.
Right.
Right. Like that styles. I always think like that watching some of them walk up, and I'm like, it's such a tight suit. You can see their ankles. They've got weird shoes on. Like, they're going to regret that in 30 years.
I know, but
in the moment, that's the look when you're 18 years old, or 19 or 20
Jeff
or whatever.
O'Neill was the coolest cat walking down with short sleeve dress shirt, and that was the style. There was probably a double breast involved.
Oh, yeah. The ladies in Hartford couldn't contain themselves.
But that's what it is. But you look back in 25 years, there it is. Look at the salad.
Look
the
at
salad
this
was
shirt.
on
Jacket
point.
looks great, comes off.
And there's Dilbert.
And here he comes,
Dwight
Michael
Schrute.
Douglas.
Oh, my.
Dwight Schrute from The Office.
Just trying to get the forearms out.
Yeah, Michael Douglas.
An interesting down. Throw a pair of shades on that guy. Yeah. Give him a shotgun and just say, "You're Michael Douglas."
Start with a bat.
I think it was
with a bat, and then it got into a shotgun later in the movie.
There's a big wave. Who are you waving at there? Your family?
Dude, I got drafted by Hartford in Hartford. The people were going nuts.
So it was the crowd. That's of course. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. First impressions, man. I wonder if anyone was up in the crowd saying, "Man, I don't know about the short sleeve."
Look at the loser with the short sleeves.
Like I was hoping he'd fall to 5, but I'm having second thoughts now.
I love it though.
That's the thing about the draft. Like you look at what the Leafs did last night.
Yeah.
Right. They go up there and they get Easton Cowan of the London Knights, and you could tell the guys in the truck were like, "We got to find him. We don't know where he is in a building." Because he was up basically in the top row.
Was he on the wrong side, too? I
think he might have been on the wrong side because, he wasn't expected to go in the first round.
Right.
And now everyone's got an opinion on this kid, on whether or not it was a reach based on the mock drafts that they follow.
Here's the King Daddy Topper Hazy. Someone came up to me and said, "Are you as disgusted as I am in that selection last night?" And I said, "I never heard the guy's name or seen him play one shift. How could I be disgusted?" And he goes, "Well, I haven't seen him play either, but I wanted them to take somebody that was a little more talked about." And I said, "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life." Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, that's what I'm saying. To be disgusted. Listen, it sounds like it was a reach. It sounds like in a perfect world, they should have traded back and accumulated more picks. And more than likely, they were trying to do that, and they couldn't find a trade partner.
Right.
But I can't give you an opinion on the player and whether or not he is going to turn into a very good pro. We don't know that yet. And this happens with every single draft in every sport. You read mock drafts, and you attach yourself to the player that's slotted in that area. And if there's a guy there that you didn't think was supposed to be there, because on Craigslist, he wasn't going to be.
That's the thing. As much as we love Craig or Bobby, it doesn't mean that their lists are the law.
They'd be the first.
And that's what happens. They get attached to it, and it's like anything that's different than the mock draft that Craig or Bobby does. It's like, what's going on? You should have taken that guy.
Yeah.
Don't you feel like yesterday's draft, watching it, from those mock drafts went way off the board. Mm-hmm. Like there were guys that you're right, they were trying to find, or like, I didn't have that guy at that spot, at 7. That guy was ranked 30th, but teams fall in love or find somebody in a diamond in the rough or somebody that they think, you keep hearing. I watched Craig this morning talk about Winnipeg's picked at 18, thinking he's a hell of a player. Mm-hmm. Like Cheveldayoff has been able to draft and develop a lot of good players. I think their scouting staff is really good. Colby Barlow, we've seen him at the World Juniors.
Yeah.
But, the end of the day, this is all a crapshoot. These are 17, 18-year-old kids.
And these are COVID players too, right?
Exactly.
Like players that really got stunted in a way or maybe didn't have as much tape because of the COVID years. And by all accounts, it's a very deep draft. So if it is, it's incumbent that you got to get guys. And what's clear here is the Leafs, they had 3 picks in this draft. They didn't move any of them, which I'm a little bit surprised by. They kept their first rounder last night. They took a 5th and 6th rounder earlier today. But that's it. And they've got to start stocking up, man. They've got to start loading up the cupboards here. And that's the nature of going for it. And this is not revisionist history. I think it was the right play, right? It doesn't mean they got every trade they've made correct. I mean, there were obviously mistakes that Dubas and company made. But at the trade deadline, they went all in. And the year before, they basically went all in. And the year before that. And I would expect it'll probably continue with Trey Living. I would guess between now and next year's trade deadline, Trey Living will probably flip picks and prospects and continue to try to explore ways to make the big club as competitive as possible.
Dude, how many picks do they have?
Well, that's it. And that's why, today was the end of the buyout window. I believe it's today, maybe tomorrow.
I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. And Trey Living said that they're not going to be buying anyone out. And everyone looks to Matt Murray. And they're like, all right, well, what does that mean for Matt Murray?
Yeah.
Matt Murray cannot be an option for this team next year. It's simply
absolutely not.
It
no
absolutely
way,
cannot
no how.
happen. So,
but this is where you would pay infinite amount of money to be a fly on the wall to know Matt Murray's status with the organization.
In terms of what?
I'm healthy. I want to play next year.
Not possible.
Good for him.
Okay, listen, don't shoot the messenger. I'm throwing it out there. Both of you are shooting the messenger. What I'm saying is Brad Tree Living comes in probably with no predisposition.
Well, he's got to have some predisposition on Matt Murray his history.
But I'm saying he's probably
he's
had probably deep. One of his best friends is Kyle Dubas. He actually even said that in his opening press conference, saying Kyle and I are very close. So
I wouldn't call Kyle on Matt Murray
and say
probably not the guy he'd be calling.
Well, maybe Kyle wants Matt Murray back.
Well, maybe.
But don't you think Kyle would call and say, I want Matt Murray, but I want you to choose some of the salary?
Oh, I think that's exactly, and I think he'd be smart to do that. I think that would actually be very wise.
Well, listen, the point being is I don't know what they're thinking. That's why I said I would pay a lot of money to be a fly on the wall to go, what is his future with this organization? Or do they have a bigger trade that he's getting lumped into it?
That would be the perfect beginning of our segment, Truth Serum. You get Kyle on the phone and say, you're now in Pittsburgh. Do you want Matt Murray back? And if you don't, why?
Right.
And you know what? The truth, if he had to tell the truth, he'd probably say, well, he can't stay healthy, and when he does, he's not very good.
Yeah.
So why would I want him back? That would be the first guest on Truth Serum. You want Matt Murray? You brought him in here to Toronto. Now you're in Pittsburgh. Do you want him there?
I just can't picture a scenario where Matt Murray can be a part of this program in the fall. I'm sorry.
No way,
I didn't think he should have been last year. I was adamant about that. I think we all were. I was flabbergasted the Leafs made that trade.
Right.
Absolutely flabbergasted. And it played out basically the exact way I predicted it would. And I think it'll only get worse. With all due respect. It played out
the way you looked at the scenario and said, why did you think anything different than that was going to happen?
You're right. And that's exactly what happened. So, yes, I'm sure he's healthy today, and I'm sure he's preparing to play.
Right.
And he's entitled to a lot of money. That's another thing about this.
Right.
The actual cash is higher than the cap hit. The cash is a lot of money.
Like $6 million or something.
Yeah, I think it's more than that. I think it actually escalated the amount of cash he was getting. So it's not so much even about the cap hit. It's like if you're going to call up, let's say Arizona, because they're always the kind of black hole that takes on contracts. Right. They're not going to pay him $6 million plus.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay him that kind of money. But I think for me, if I'm the Leafs, you got to begin with clearly this isn't an option. So now how do we make it work?
Right.
Is it a buyout? Is it a trade where you have to throw in an asset to get rid of him? Or is it he's a part of a bigger trade? Is it a long-term IR, Robitaille and Lou Lamoriello magic trick?
I'm just looking up the salary. He is owed $8 million.
$8 million. That's what I thought.
Ottawa's chewing on some of that. So whatever the percentage is, it's 6 and change or something from Toronto, and Ottawa's paying the rest. He's owed 8 real cash this year.
Right.
He's
showing up.
Exactly.
Absolutely, he's showing up as he should. Everyone else does. I'm not. This is not
on Matt Murray.
About it is because he doesn't play.
What
and
I'm saying,
add
as
up
far
to
as
his
like,
contract.
I wouldn't be mad at him saying I want to play.
Of course,
he wants $8 million.
I fully expect that he will and he should. He'll show up to camp, and whoever he's playing for, I expect Matt Murray to show up and say, "I'm ready for physicals and I'm ready to play.
Right.
Let's go." But
man,
for me, I don't see a future here in Toronto. I cannot picture a scenario where they explain Matt Murray returning when Joseph Woll has to go through waivers now.
He's on the team. The only one is
Wall's on
how
the
much
team.
does Samsonov want?
Well,
Are you keeping Murray in case you have to walk away from Samsonov?
No. For me, Murray has no bearing on anything.
Yes, he's not a part of it. I can't depend on him. If you
need
need a veteran guy to play a bunch of games to help this Wall out, he's not the guy. He's not the guy. He'll be injured within 5 games, and then it's Joseph Woll and Shalgren. That's your goalies. No way. Not starting the show like this.
I agree with you. I feel like I'm so negative all the time.
But
what?
I feel like I'm so like I did a Sports Center hit earlier where I was like, no, can't do that. Like everything with the Leafs.
It's June 29th.
I know that, but it's just
you were losing it on Sports Center at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yelling at Corey Warren.
I wasn't yelling necessarily, but I was asked about Matt Murray, and I said he cannot be a part of the team.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
I said he can't be.
And thank you for bringing it up on this show.
I was asked about Erik Karlsson. I said, no, I don't think it's a fit here. You don't want Erik Karlsson. I don't because of his disposition. I've said this for probably 3 or 4 years. I think he's wired the exact same way as Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. They're just
play hockey.
They just go out and they play, and it's not tough. It's not physical. I don't think they're overly comfortable in those situations. And I think you're adding another guy with effectively the same disposition. Yeah, that alone is just something I don't think makes sense.
And that's saying something about everyone else's disposition.
Absolutely.
When you're saying you don't want to add any more to it, as skilled as Erik Karlsson is.
Yes.
That's scary, actually.
Well, so then
it's not scary. It's incredible that you would actually say I have to say that.
Because David Kampf is not a guy that
I made my opinion very clear when it came to that, too. I was not overly optimistic.
But that's the thing. So you would like, and I think we all agree, I don't know what the word is, irritability in some of your players, which is fine.
I'd like a much bigger defense, and I'd like a team that is built for the playoffs.
Right.
Tough, physical, on their toes.
That's where the copycat comes in with Vegas.
Yes.
Vegas came to play. They had guys who could stand up and be tough, but their top players, they played tough as well and crossed the line. I mean, Alex Pietrangelo almost chopped Draisaitl's arm off.
He'd had enough.
Yeah, exactly. And they went after him. Mark Stone held on for life with his back, but he went to the front of the net and played hard.
Mm-hmm.
There was that fourth line. Again, we pointed it out yesterday. They played hard. They were physical. They were mean. They were fast. They scored. It'll be interesting to see, but I'm not ready to judge June 29th. No, that's where I'm at, and I know you guys are.
I'm not.
Doodles, you just owe us an apology because for 4 days you've been saying it's going to get wacky and crazy out there, and we're still sitting here. You're the new Pierre LeBrun who's promised us 5 years in a row that it's going to get wacky. And I called old Hazy B last night, and he was drowning his sorrows. He was drinking scotch, and he's like, "Oh, dog, same thing." Nothing
you
happened.
Expected something to happen last night where it's like,
we've got
to trade.
Told us.
I expected
there wasn't even a trade of a draft pick.
Yeah.
First time, I believe, since 2007, no one moved.
Tommy Fitzgerald had to trade a pick to stinky old David Poyle to make it interesting and give him a send-off.
Well, how about the guy? I think the guys must have been hungover. All we heard was shout-outs for Tootsies.
I know. Everyone's like, hey, Tootsies. Tootsies.
I thought Billy Guerin's speech was the best. He goes up and
True Living referenced it, too, which I think was great.
Yeah,
We'll play him. We'll play him before we get to Craig, because Craig's been down there. I think Craig's been doing live hits from the patio at Tootsie's.
Man, oh man, what a place to set up. And poor Carey Price was in one.
Ooh.
Why not? Here's
Garth
the thing.
Helgar.
There was a couple that guys that went up and drew
a piece of paper,
just
fellas.
a little piece of paper with the guy's name on it.
Yeah.
Go up and read this.
I know. Get this guy a prompter. Get Carey Price.
Bobby Clark was one of the. He did that like a while back.
What was Claude Giroux?
Claude Giroux.
Yeah, he was like
Claude Giroux.
Claude.
Yeah. What's the guy's name
Who are we
again?
taking?
Oh my God, that's tough. But if you don't do it, just go up with a piece of paper.
Yeah,
that's it. Like nobody would be mad, and there was nobody mad anyways. But I just felt bad for the kid because the kid's like.
Because then that's kind of the story. It's like Carey Price couldn't remember your name.
Yeah.
And it's the 5th overall pick too.
Big pick.
Yeah, it's a big pick. Yeah, that one. That wasn't great for Carey. Yeah, we'll play that. All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to Billy Guerin and what he had to say last night. The 24th perfect game in MLB history took place last night. I'll give you one guess who it happened against.
Oakland.
The Oakland Athletics. We'll get into that with Steve Phillips. You got Alejandro Kirk, who is back. He's off the IL. He's been activated. And Vladdy heading back to the home run derby. What does Steve Phillips think about that? We'll catch up with Steve next. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Domingo German with a perfect game last night. The sticky tack thief. He was a guy in Toronto that got kicked out of the game a few weeks ago.
That's right.
Got suspended for 10 games.
Come back and you think he had it on last night?
I'm sure he had something going last night, but I don't know if you need it against that Athletics team. That was
got 10 games for that episode in Toronto.
It's automatic because he got ejected for the game, and like remember how like every ump in the city was coming in being like, look at this guy's hand.
Well,
like,
and it was on his pants and
was
stuff. Like
everywhere.
They didn't even challenge it. They were like, yeah, you got him.
Yeah.
Like, remember?
Oh, yeah. Even after the game, Boone was like,
yeah,
nah, what do you want out of me, man? He really had a lot of sticky tack. Like, he really enjoyed.
Wasn't the ump's quote, it's the stickiest hand I've ever felt in my life.
I believe that
is awesome.
Was the quote. And listen, a perfect game is a perfect game, right? I get it. It's against Oakland. It looked goofy. It was 11-0 Yankees, and they're in Oakland. So it's at, what was it, 12:30 Eastern time, midnight. Like, I woke up to it. I had fallen asleep. I wasn't staying up for a perfect game. But it's only the 24th in history. I think it'll be the most forgettable in history because of the situation, because it happened in Oakland against Oakland that late at night. But still, it's a perfect game. But like, you can't take anything away from the guy.
It's not his fault.
No.
And he was playing against, in essence, the Washington Generals. Correct?
Well, yes, but you still, listen, Oakland has faced a lot of other teams, and no one else has put a perfect game up on them.
Exactly.
Perfect game is a perfect game. But this is a guy with, he was suspended for 81 games for domestic abuse a few years ago. Again, the sticky tack stuff, he was ejected. Like, this is not a guy with a squeaky clean image. Yeah. And he's a Yankee, for that matter. Here's Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. Steve, how do you approach that perfect game last night, and how do you think we'll remember it historically?
Yeah, I think it's probably more about the Oakland A's than it is about the Yankees. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it is an achievement, but the A's are not very good, and they're one of the worst teams really in the history of baseball. That's how bad they are. Mm-hmm. Now they are beating the Yankees 3-1 today in the fourth inning, so they're bouncing back a little bit. And they've got 4 hits today. But, German did what he needed to do against a weak lineup. And remember, his start before this, he gave up 10 runs. And before that, it was the sticky stuff. And I think probably, the environment, the weather conditions in Oakland probably were more conducive, where it's not humid, it's not sticky. He doesn't need to fight to get grip, because, one of the problems he had was coming out of the suspension that he had for sticky stuff is that he couldn't get a grip on the ball. And so, now he goes out to Oakland, and they checked him, and they checked him thoroughly. But I just think the weather conditions were such that he was able to grip the ball and do what he did. And, his curveball was good yesterday, but, this was a lineup that didn't make any adjustments at all. They kept chasing pitches out of the zone. And so, I mean, only 24 in the history of baseball. So it's an amazing accomplishment. You need to have some good fortune in those games. Anthony Rizzo made a nice diving play on a ball down the line that saved a potential hit. and they made the plays behind him, and he threw strikes. I mean, he threw a lot of strikes. You think about it. I mean, he threw 99 pitches and 72 strikes, and so I think overall it was an excellent effort on his part, but I don't think it means he's going to move into elite status at all.
No. And listen, you look over the list of guys who have thrown perfect games. It's not all Nolan and Clemens and Pedro.
Humber.
Yeah, exactly. It's a magical day. Like David Wells, who's blind, basically. He couldn't see. He was so
blind
hungover.
Drunk, yeah.
He didn't have a clue where the strike zone was. Just one of those magical days.
Yeah, I think you're right. And everything goes right for you and everything goes wrong for the other team. And yet, it is a part of history,
sure.
And one that he'll be proud of for sure for all his career. And they need him, the Yankees. And so there's some level of confidence building that's good for him too, moving forward out of that start.
Steve, we had John Schneider on yesterday, and we had a nice chat, and he basically came across as if we're kind of right where we need to be. Are you buying that, or do you think there's a stronger sense of disappointment of where the team's at? Because I asked him, I'm like, are you getting a little bit tired of what's up with this guy, what's up with that guy, because it seems to be a lot of that this year for him to answer the question.
Yeah, there does. I mean, look, they're in a playoff spot if it ends today, so I think that you've got to feel good about that. It's one that even if they had been playing better, they probably wouldn't be playing as well as Tampa Bay had. And so maybe they would have been in place where Baltimore is, or, ahead of the Yankees and be the second wild card team right now. Because, listen, Orioles are 17 games over 500. I mean, they're playing out of their minds too. So, I think that he's not going to preach disappointment because they're in a playoff spot. Yet I think everybody agrees that they've not gotten the kind of traction that we would have thought they could have so far. 7 games over 500. There's nothing to apologize about, but they're not playing. They haven't played to a consistent level at all. And I think last year, right around this time, they were about at the same spot. And remember, they made a managerial change, and out goes Charlie Montoya, in comes John Schneider, and I don't suspect they're going to do the same thing this year. But and there is this thing that teams do, and I think the Phillies are doing a little bit of it this year, that you sort of replicate the season you had the year before, that you believe that there's some part of your DNA that is, we get our traction, we can't really get going early, and then all of a sudden in middle of July, we turn it on and we start to make our run and we go. For the Phillies, we were struggling, we changed managers, Harper went down, and then next thing you know, we started to put it together, we make this run and come back. And they're starting to do that now. And so, I think that teams have a personality, and they make up things about themselves, and sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that you become what you think you are rather than just being the team and going out there and playing. So, I think it's a little disappointing, but it's hard to be too disappointed when you're, in the wild card right now.
He was also asked about Manoah, and Bryan was just basically bringing up the real level of concern when everybody caught wind of that outing he had against bartenders down in Florida that were not, I don't know what the hell.
No, those kids aren't old enough to be bartenders.
Whatever.
There's not a single one of them that qualified to be a bartender down there.
It was ugly, and he was trying to put some type of positive spin on it, saying you don't have the video or the knowledge that we do. And Hayes was like, well, what the hell could you have that would be positive in that? And I'm just wondering, if that's you, Steve, what's the real deal here? How concerning is this?
Oh, it's extraordinarily concerning. And, I got the same spin, which was, they should have made 4 or 5 plays behind him, the rookie ball players. And, he did throw 92 to 95, so his velocity was up in a better spot than we've seen it before. His mechanics were better working down the mound. And, it's that one of the things they wanted him to do was fill up the strike zone. Now, that's not the ideal way to get rookie ball hitters out, right? You want to throw it out of the zone and get them to chase. And they really, and again, one of the things they're trying to do is they're trying to get them physically right, mechanically right, emotionally right, and then mentally right. Now, mentally, they want him to fill up the strike zone and have that mental approach. He did that. Now, he got whacked around, so it didn't build his confidence in any way, so that didn't really grow. Mechanically, they feel like they made some strides, and his velocity got up to a much better spot. And so they're trying to, you try to find silver lining, because what else do? Do you say to the guy, dude, you sucked? You can't do that either. So you try to build up something to be a positive step moving forward. But Ross Atkins said, that when it came to the trade deadline, that they are going to be obviously in the hunt for a starter. That told me all I needed to know about their level of confidence in Manoah coming back. Now, he may come back, but their mindset is that they're all in and trying to find a starting pitcher, which tells you that they're not counting on him. They're hoping he'll be icing on the cake if they get him back, but he's not the cake. And they're going to go out and find somebody, which I think was a really telling statement in GM speak from Ross Atkins.
One last one, Steve, on Manoah. Was it as simple as, look, man, like you just talked about, I think it was 5 different things about getting him right. Was it as simple as go down there and lose some weight? Because that's the crux of all these problems.
Well, it's, I mean, he is heavier, and I don't know whether to put that on over conditioning with upper body work. And I've seen that where guys have gotten bulked up, put on weight. Noah Syndergaard did it. Syndergaard had the highest average fastball in baseball at 97.5. It's not.
But, that, Steve.
Right. No, but he's thicker with his upper body. But guys do some stuff that at least the thing is physically he needs to change the flexibility of his upper body. He got bulky, and for whatever the causes of that, he does need to get himself back in shape. Now, somebody said, I think Matthew Cause this morning said he was 30 pounds heavier this year. I don't know that for a fact. He looked thicker in the upper body to me, in the chest and shoulders. Now, whether that's a factor, because what happens is one thing where you're off can mess up your mechanics. It can also mess up your mental state of, I'm getting hit. My fastball is not as hard as it was. Let me try to throw harder. Let me try to miss bats. And so you start to nibble off the corners. Then you're thinking, okay, if I'm going to try to throw harder, then that messes up my mechanics as I'm going down the rubber because my front shoulder's flying open. And that's where I thought you've got to get to the root cause of why his mechanics changed. And that's the mental, emotional part of it. And maybe the physical part too. They're going to have to work on that. And I got to believe they got their high performance team down there with him as well, really working to get him in as athletic a position as he can.
With Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst, how about Vladdy returning to the home run derby?
Yeah. Schneider pitching
and
to
Schneider's going to pitch to him.
Wow.
What do you make of that, Steve?
That's a greasy way to get to the All-Star game, man.
Yeah, sure. On your way in.
Well, if you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no shame in that. It worked his rookie year. So, and here's the thing. I mean, he's in the balloting to get there. We'll see if he wins it. But so and that's going to be announced at 7:00 tonight, I think, the starters for the All-Star game. But I actually think it's a really good thing for him. Because the one thing we're seeing is his not driving the ball, like his exit velocities and his barrel rates are all good, but he's not hitting necessarily the home. So I think the idea of repetition and motor memory of him hunting the bottom of the baseball and hitting it out is probably not the worst thing for him for the last 2 months of the season. I kind of like it.
All right, we'll see, man. I listen. As for the power on the field throughout the season, we've been talking about it consistently. But he is a legend when it comes to the home run derby. An absolute legend.
Yeah.
When it comes to the derby.
I was almost a legend last weekend when I called 4 home runs and they hit one on Friday and he hit one on Saturday. And you guys were thinking, oh my gosh, how did he know this?
Yeah, you're right.
And then he just hit doubles the rest of the way. So
all good.
Do you think this could maybe springboard him from a confidence standpoint as well?
I do. I think that, here's the thing. Everything matters. Everything matters. We don't know how much it matters. We don't know necessarily if it's positive or negative when things happen, but everything matters. My experience is that a guy has a great, a ball bloops in, and it matters to that hitter in some way to get him going again, to get him thinking in a different way. And the same thing for a pitcher or team. When the other team hits a blooper and it falls in, and you think, listen, they didn't crush it. They didn't. No, but you know what? It'll be, that's the thing that's going to beat us today. Our luck is so bad. Things aren't going right. Everything means something in baseball, and it can be different to everybody on the field, but it certainly does do that, and it can impact the way a team plays and players play.
Alejandro Kirk has been activated off the IL. He was a huge part of what they did a year ago, Steve. Like, how much of this team turning around some of the issues that they've had at the plate, specifically, clutch hitting, runners in scoring position, can really come alive with Vladdy coming alive more, but specifically Kirk reverting back to what he was doing a year ago.
Yeah, it'd be good if he can get going. Now, Jansen's had some big days, right? I mean, the thing about Jansen, if he gets a home run his first at bat, he's likely to get another one in the game. Like his first at bat really sticks with him offensively during the course of a game, and he can have a big day based upon that first at bat. But Kirk's going to get a lot of at bats, and they need him to hit DH some as well, and against left-handers, and so he is an important factor in this lineup. And I think that the messed up spring training. Remember, his wife was having a baby. He was supposed to go to WBC, got a late start, got all the rule changes, and I just don't think he was prepared the way that ideally he'd wanted to be prepared for the season. Nobody's fault. It's just, the Mother Nature in the delay to camp. But I think it did impact him, and I think he's still playing catch up a little bit.
All right, Steve. Enjoy it tonight, buddy. We'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
All right, terrific, guys. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB analyst. I'll say this, man. The openers that they're going with in place of Manoah have been outstanding. Richard's outstanding. Yeah. That Francis kid's been really, really good. Like, collectively, their ERA is really low. It's been better than what Manoah was supplying, clearly. I mean, it wasn't possible to get much worse, but, it's been really, really effective, the opener.
That gives them more breathing room.
Absolutely.
They can keep them down there, and it doesn't force them to make a move immediately if they believe that Manoah's going to be down there the rest of the year.
It feels like they believe he's going to be down there the rest of the year, right? Publicly, they're going to say what they're going to say, and everyone understands it.
They have no other choice to think that. When they see that performance, they're like, how the hell could this? They can't even envision him.
When is his next performance? Is it scheduled tomorrow?
I think he's doing a side session next. That is a good question. It wouldn't shock me if they were like, you know what, we're going to give you another 3 weeks before we even send you out there again.
What's his next side session? He just throws against the wall and catches it on the way back to him?
Well, it's a simulated
I'm not trying to make light of this. It's terrible. This is the guy that was on top of the
world. Jamie,
let's
be honest here, man. If this was the Yankees ace, Garrett Cole, that was going through this would be the biggest front page news in New York City.
Absolutely.
This is Toronto's ace, and it's the starter of the All-Star game, and now he's pitching against 19-year-old kids in a complex.
Yeah.
It's quite shocking.
It's absolutely shocking. It is truly one of the wildest stories I can recall talking about on this station.
Yeah, it's not just as simple as, he's down there working on things. This is a shocking turn of events.
It's a shock. This is not, if Kikuchi, if this happened to him this year, I don't know if they'd send him to the Florida complex.
Yeah,
they might just
say Assad coming.
You'd be like, all right, obviously the contract.
Well,
and
see a decline and all of that. Yeah.
Even Barrios with the way that he was pitching a year ago. Manoah, nobody saw a fall from grace. Maybe he was going to come back to earth. Maybe. Maybe he had a bloated ERA. It was a 4.50 ERA, had a trouble getting through 5 innings.
Yeah.
That would be panic-inducing. That would be front-page material. This guy's in the complex league. Pitching to guys that you've never heard of before.
You said the other day, it's not a step back. It's get in a plane and fly across.
Flying halfway across the world. It's more than just a step back.
It's terrible.
He got on a flight, and he's flown halfway around the world.
Well, I still believe at some point he's going to get back. I really
hope so, for his sake and for the Blue Jays. I'm rooting for the guy. It's not about rooting for the guy. It's just dealing with, the reality in front of us.
Yeah.
We got some big NBA news. We'll tell you about that next. All right, so James Harden is opting into his $35.6 million deal for next season.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you, though?
Well,
was he expecting more?
I guess it's not. Now, let me finish here. In order for the 10-time All-Star and the 76ers to work together on a trade out of Philadelphia. That is according to Shams. Yeah. That's why you got to finish the tweet, man. You got to finish the tweet.
So he opts in so that the team acquiring him at least has a guaranteed salary that's coming with him.
I guess. And then, maybe there's some sort of negotiation on top of that as well. So sounds like Harden is out of Philly. And I wonder what that means for Fred VanVleet, who has been connected to Philly if Harden's not going to be there.
Dude, don't you have Harden overload, or are you just give me the news and give me the scoops? Because you just get to a point where the certain player, and I mean, you can almost throw Stroman into the category when he was here in Toronto, where it's that's enough of you making news.
Well,
I'm over Harden.
On top of that, I'm over Kyrie Irving, and you see the rumors and reports today that he's going to go meet with the Phoenix Suns.
Oh, of course.
Which I'm sure Kevin Durant really loves hearing. Like, if you're Kevin Durant, aren't you calling him and saying, leave me alone, please?
Yeah, no
Quit
kidding.
following
He's
me
like
around.
the rich kid in the GTHL that just keeps going to all the teams to try to win. And he's like, how come no one's talking about me? I want to be involved in this. He's so annoying.
That's a weird reference. But okay.
But don't you know what I mean? He's just like, I want to go on this team. I want to go on that team. Somebody take me.
But
Don't you want me?
But then he gets there, and he's a complete pain in the ass. That's the problem.
Well, Harden, Kyrie is a pain in the ass.
That's what I'm talking about, Kyrie.
Kyrie is absolutely.
Not Harden. I'm talking about Kyrie.
Absolutely. Kyrie, I don't think you can trust. And I'm not, just because you're going to meet with Phoenix. Like this, everything is in the air right now about leverage and reports and rumors and, agents are leaking stuff. But Woj tweeting out that the Clippers and the Knicks are expected to be among the teams that will engage with Philly. So, take that for what it's worth. Two teams that have done nothing in the playoffs for a long, long time. They want a guy who has no history of being successful in the playoffs.
Clutch, yeah.
That makes all the sense in the world. Hour 2 coming up. Craig Button will join us. Easton Cowan, what does he make of the pick? How does he feel about the player and some of the action down in Nashville and what could be happening over the next 2 or 3 days? We'll catch up with Craig. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.